So last time, I went around and showed the weakest items in Dead Cells. So today, let's try to brighten the mood and showcase some of the items that are actually underappreciated and are quite strong, even though it's not known by many people. The beauty of an indie game such as Dead Cells is that it's fairly open source, you can test and crack open the game mechanics, and absolutely push the game to its limits. With the training room now available to us, it's easier than ever to experiment and find secret combos never seen before. After consulting with the community, as well as conducting some testing on my own, here are 5 weapons in Dead Cells that are secretly overpowered. The first weapon interaction on the list is not necessarily powerful, but it's fun, goofy, and I think more people should know about it. The Diverse Stack is the first ever colorless item in the game. It's no surprise that the multi-card mechanic can lead to some interesting synergies. But the one I want to highlight today is with a certain Easter egg weapon from the Castlevania DLC, the Morning Star. In order to unlock this weapon, you have to input the Konami code on your controller, though I got no clue what it looks like on a keyboard. Fun fact, you can actually do this once every run, so whenever you want the Morning Star to show up, input the cheat code and out comes your ball on a stick. The weapon itself is very weird, and it's one where if I were to make a tier list, I would probably put it in unranked, since you can literally get it whenever you want, and its mechanics are interesting to say the least. Essentially, using the weapon locks you in place and you control the position of the star by flicking your thumbstick in the direction you want the ball to hover around. It's nothing special, and at first I dismissed it as a meme weapon, but with the Catalyst card as well as the open wounds and combo mutation, you can actually apply poison/bleed at an alarming rate. Not to mention its fast attack ticks builds up the combo meter lightning fast. It's something I gotta do with a full run with, but it is a fun way to play the game, so I am including it here. This next weapon I absolutely trashed when I first saw it, but now people have found some interesting things to do with it. The hand hook. The last attack will hook any enemies behind you, dealing crits if they hit a wall in the process. At first, this seemed like a Spartan Santa wannabe, and I immediately thought it was hot garbage. In fact, they actually buffed the weapon slightly by removing one of the attacks in the combo, so you can hook things just a little bit faster. In my original tier list, I believe I said something along the lines of, if there was a way to benefit from having enemies behind you, then there would be a use for the hook. And this seemed like a weapon that does something very specific which doesn't serve a purpose just yet. After all, if you can stun lock things from kicking them into walls using the sandal, why should I play this? Well, after a year or two, there's actually a hidden interaction that I didn't know about until recently. You know how it says it will crit when an enemy hits a wall? As it turns out, it's not just walls. If I have the Mushroom Boy pet in a certain position, and I throw the enemy behind me to my little pet, the weapon actually does a critical hit. This seems to be the case with the Leg Hugger too if you can time it right. So why does it do this? Well, the assumption of why this happens might be due to that the hook will cause crits whenever its thrown targets hit any entities, not just walls. Well, I guess these pets finally serve a good purpose, right? But I can't see it being that good is what I hear you saying. But don't worry, I'll do you one better. You know the swarm grenade, the one that spawns a bunch of biters? Well, what would happen if you were to create a bunch of entities for the hook to crit on? Yeah, by the looks of it, these little pink slimes finally serves their purpose. And while we're at it, this interaction actually makes the pets a lot more usable, as it's a key component for this hook interaction to work. I love it when a new item introduced makes an existing item better or more powerful. This is probably one of the most clever things I've seen. Weirdly, the same interaction doesn't work with the Spartan Sandals, but all in all, give the hand hook another shot. It is actually quite decent. This next weapon plays a more defensive role rather than dealing damage. In fact, it might be fair to say that it doesn't do any damage at all. I am an advocate for the Rampart Shield. I think it's one of the best shields in the game. On-demand invincibility is so powerful to have in this game, especially when it comes to securing that big hit you've been saving up with heavier weapons. The best part about defensive items is that you don't even need to play survival to use it, you just want it for the effect. I love the Rampart Shield in the way that it gives you a new way to play the game. By timing your parries and taking advantage of the bubble, you can sneak in some nasty hits when you couldn't before. This is especially true in bosses. Look how I can parry and get the shield, then dump all of my loadout at the Scarecrow, and I don't have to be fearful of getting hit myself. Of course, you only get a few seconds out of it, so you gotta make it count. The good thing about the shield is that it turns red to warn you that it's about to expire. The best way I can describe the Rampart shield is that it's low risk, high reward, as long as you don't overstay your welcome and actually time your shield uptime to not get greedy. I have saved the best two for last, as this past week I have been learning so much about the game that I've been playing for the past 4 years, and I was so surprised when the community is still finding new tricks with weapons in the game. The last two entries on this list will no doubt surprise you too. So first, let's talk about the Serenade. You know the Serenade, right? That jealous sword that flies around taking enemies and dealing crits when you wield it and it hits stuff? Well, this adorable companion is not actually entirely what it seems. When you switch the Serenade with your main weapon, you'll notice that your stats at the bottom left pop out for a second. Why does it do this and how is it significant to this video? Well, when the stats pop out like that, it is something called an inventory reset triggers. So what is an inventory reset? When that happens, the cooldown for your weapon attacks get reset, meaning you can immediately attack again when it does. Let's show an example. If you had the Firebrand, you can spam the button to throw it out, but there is a small delay between your throws, obviously in place to prevent you from just tossing this out as fast as you can press the button. However, if we swap Serenade and perform the inventory reset, we can immediately throw the Firebrand again, bypassing the cooldown. And this happens. But let's do one step better. Check out this clip with the Spite Sword. By swapping the Serenade and timing it with your attacks, you can reset the cooldown of your weapons and swing that sword way faster than you're supposed to. The Serenade tech is good for weapons that has its damage in the first attack in its combo chained, or if you really just want to use the first attack of a weapon for some reason, such as guaranteeing the dash attack on the Bladed Tonfas. Oh, and by the way, it gives Boomerang infinite ammo for some reason. Now that's the cheesiest cheese I've seen. I have no way of confirming whether or not this is intentional, but to be fair, there have been so many mechanics in this game that I can't tell if the devs want players to be able to do them or not. But hey, this is just one more added to the pile. Last but not least, I want to teach you the ways of the Tentacle. Yes, the Tentacle. How is this weapon good? Well, as it turns out, the Tentacle has two attacks, and either will trigger depending on how close you are to the enemy. If you're far enough away and are in range of the Tentacle's attack, it will pull you towards the enemy. Pretty cool, right? Well, the real interesting bit comes when you realize that you actually get invincibility frames when you get pulled in. When this happens, you can buffer your weapon and charge it up and do whatever you want while also moving to the nearest enemy at an alarming speed. For whatever reason, I'm pretty sure this has always been possible in the game. It's just that we haven't really paid much attention to it until now. Well, the more you know, I guess. You can see that I'm clearly in the hitbox of the enemy attack, but since the Tentacle is reeling me in, it does no damage. I might actually do a short showcase of the Tentacle in action, as this has become one of my favorite interactions in the game. I mean, just look at the beheaded moonwalking across the platform, or charging up the flint. It's almost the same concept with the Rampart shield, except if you know what you're doing, you can get invincibility on demand. It's definitely gonna take me a bit longer to completely master, but this Wrigley arm is surely going to be a nice addition to anyone's roster. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this list of the 5 weapons that some players may be sleeping on, but are actually quite powerful. I really appreciate the depth of this game, and even if it's on the surface, it's nowhere as deep as it seems. I'm going to be playing around with some of these weapons a bit in detail, and I might have some kind of showcase for them sometime later. Thank you all for tuning into this video, enjoy these new ways to play the game, and always remember, have fun playing Dead Cells.